I am not saying this to get your hopes up. I am saying this because I genuinely believe it. Clavicular has a very good chance right now of potentially losing his entire career. A civil lawsuit was filed against Clavicular a few days ago, which we're going to be going over together, but the contents of this lawsuit are so serious that it might actually end up going criminal. To give you a brief understanding, the person suing is now 18, but they're talking about stuff that happened when they were 16 with Clavicular, which included them both going back to Clav's home, where both, under the age of 21, got drunk and then Clav slept with her. Not only that, but she's also suing him in regard to him injecting her cheeks with fat dissolvent, which he can't do, not only because she was under 18 at the time, which meant that at the time she could not have given legal consent without her parents, but additionally, and this is mind-blowing, guys, but Clavicular is not a licensed health professional that could even do an injection like this. There's even more on top of that, but before we jump into this and start reading through it, if you're new here, consider subscribing if you like to stay up to news with terminally online drama, all that good stuff. Realistically, I'm just going to show up in your algorithm again, and if you want that to for sure happen, leave this video a like. Helps push it out to more people, lets YouTube know you like it. But regardless of if you do any of that shit, just thank you for watching. Now, like I said, I've got the filing here, not an official copy. This was public access, but as you can see here, Alexandra Vasilevna Mendoza versus Braden Eric Peters, which is Clav's full name. Now, full disclosure, I saw that Atozi, shout out to Atozi, they did a live stream saying that they were going over this, and there were parts of this document that they did not show on camera, which I am going to take the liberty of doing the same thing because some of it is just not super YouTube friendly. So if you see my chud face in this direction reading it off, that is why I am doing so. Just treat it like a podcast at that point. But to get things started off, just some general information. They're looking for excess and damages of $50,000. And they clarify, like I said earlier, that at the time they were a minor under Florida law during some of the events here. First, they describe Brandon Peters and his name Clavicular, and then describing what looks maxing is to the court. That should be interesting. Another good thing to note, she is trying to, Alexandra here, get this in front of a trial by jury, so she wants a jury to sit in on this. But now this is where we get started with the, things that they're alleging here. So plaintiff Mendoza comes from a troubled background. Beginning at age 16, Mendoza attempted to gain social media presence in order to obtain sponsorships to financially support herself. As part of her plan, she became known on social media as Alora or Alora Ziva. In or about May of 2025, when Mendoza was 16 years old, she was paid $1,000 by Clavicular to film videos. Clav told Mendoza that he wanted her to be the female face for looks maxing. Clavs assisted her with creating videos and wrote the scripts for her. After posting approximately 4 looks maxing videos for Clavicular, she and Clav were texting while Clav was in Cape Cod and she was in Massachusetts. Clav offered to pay for an Uber to bring Mendoza to Cape Cod. Mendoza accepted the offer since she had never met Clav and thought meeting him would help her online presence as Clav had promised. The Uber took her to Clav's parents' home. Clav's mother and grandmother were at the house. With his mother's full knowledge, excessive amounts of alcohol were being served. At this time, Clav was under the age of 21, and of course, Mendoza here was at the age of 16. Not off to a great start. Obviously, underage drinking, not very epic. I would say even a bit more worrisome with a 16-year-old in a place that she doesn't really know. But probably even worse than that is the mom and grandma being totally cool with it. Or very specifically, the mom as described in their claim here. Clav then escorted Mendoza to his bedroom where a computer was set up for live streaming. Inside the bedroom, Clav served Mendoza multiple servings of vodka. Mendoza became inebriated and visibly intoxicated. Clav then slept with Mendoza while she was knowingly intoxicated to the point where she was unable to give consent. That morning, while she was asleep, she woke up with Clav sleeping with her again without her consent. At this point, Mendoza did not know about Clav's bragging about slaying girls and having one-night stands. Clav refers to this frequently as pump and dump. They then attach a link to a TikTok.
Exactly. What happened to the girl from last night? Fucking pump and dump, buddy. What are we talking about? The girl from last night? You should be focused on the girl from today.
Following on, after sleeping with Mendoza, Clav sent her off in an Uber. She did not see him again for another 6 months. So I feel like there's quite a few things that are, dare I say, horrific about that situation. Most pointedly, that a 16-year-old Went over to Clav's home. His mom seemed to be okay with them getting shit-faced. I believe at the time here, although they're not saying it explicitly, that Clavicular was 18, so there's a 2-year age gap there. I'm very curious to hear what you guys think in regard to that. But to add another layer, they both got shit-faced, and then it seems clear that she did not consent in the waking up afterwards at the very least. But I think they're making a great point that on top of her being 16, she could not, legally consent given how much she was drinking, especially at the age of 16. But let's continue on with the rest of it. The live streamed crime committed on the plaintiff. In November of 2025, Mendoza went out with a group of friends in Miami for a networking event. She and her friends ran into Clav in the Brickell Avenue area. Clav commented how her physical appearance had improved through looks maxing. Clav then invited Mendoza and her friends back to his place for a streaming session, telling Mendoza that she was ascending and he could continue to increase her online presence. Mendoza agreed since she was with her friends and believed that they were going somewhere nearby. Once in Clav's car, a Tesla Cybertruck, Mendoza was shocked to find out that they were driving to Delray Beach, over 1 hour away. They then stopped at a charging station where Peters and his friends snorted a white, powdery substance which they offered to Mendoza, who refused. Probably just powdered sugar. Or crushed up Smarties. Upon arriving at their destination, Clavicular attempted to kiss and seduce Mendoza. Mendoza rejected those overtures. Clav continued to tell Mendoza that he could help her with her online presence and took her into a bedroom where he began live streaming on the Kick platform, and they link over to Clav's channel on Kick. Sitting on the desk was a vial of medication called Aqualix, along with syringes. Clav told Mendoza that he wanted to inject her with this product to melt fat on her cheeks as part of his promise to help her with her online presence through looks maxing. During this session, Clav stated or implied that he was acting with medical authority, including by referring to himself as a doctor or otherwise holding himself out as qualified to perform the injection. The FDA has warned that fat-dissolving injections are not FDA approved and can be harmful. Clav was not a physician. Clav was not licensed to practice medicine in Florida. Clav was not authorized to inject plaintiff with any drug, medication, chemical, or fat-dissolving substance. Clav never notified Mendoza that he was not authorized or licensed to perform injections. Mendoza did not provide legally valid consent for Clav to inject her. Mendoza's parent or legal guardian did not consent to Clav injecting plaintiff. Clav nevertheless prepared to inject her on camera during a live stream session that was streamed on the Kick platform. Clav then injected plaintiff multiple times in both cheeks with what he represented to be Aqualix. Clav did not explain to Mendoza that Aqualix was not approved by the FDA for injectable fat-dissolving use or that fat-dissolving injections can be harmful. They go on to say that Mendoza was a minor under Florida law and could not receive any injections absent parental consent. And at the time of injection, Clav knew that Mendoza was a minor as he commented online, "She's still a minor. I'm 19, you bitch." This entire episode was live streamed and remains available to be replayed on the Kick website and platform. The video shows that Clav had problems injecting Mendoza. In fact, Mendoza's right cheek has perforated. During the video, Clav stated or suggested that meth had been added to the injection mixture. After the first injection, she appeared drugged on camera. She believes that she may have been injected with meth or another undisclosed substance. Oh, I don't even know what to make of that. Atozi said that maybe given the situation that Clav might have been making a joke, but she also is saying that she believes that she might have been injected with meth. That's fucking insane. Also crazy that he wasn't sure of that and then still injected it into her. We're already so far past insane just given that, he's not a licensed medical professional. He's doing this shit on camera. Like there's so many degrees past insane, but still, like even on top of that, he doesn't know for sure what he was actually injecting into her. Following up though, after the session, Clav and Mendoza saw each other a handful of other times, including instances where Clav paid bouncers to let the underage Mendoza into bars and purchased alcoholic drinks for her. Throughout these encounters, Mendoza continued to believe that Clav was assisting her with her online presence. Some of the encounters were streamed on the Kick platform and website. In early 2026, Mendoza signed a contract paying her $15K a month as a social media promoter for an online trading platform. She continued to be under the incorrect assumption that Clav was helping her career. However, around this time, Clav began a campaign to discredit Mendoza. Because of Clav's enormous following and popularity online, she lost her sponsorships. Upon information and belief, Clav's campaign to discredit her was undertaken in anticipation of her asserting claims arising from the livestream injection and related misconduct. Now, where the actual, counts come in about, what they're going to be going after him for, they're alleging battery as what happened with the injection constitutes battery. They're also claiming intentional infliction of emotional distress, and that also, again, has to do with the injection that happened. And then on top of that, they're also alleging fraud for, again, the same reason about him not being a licensed healthcare provider and doing this injection. Now, I guess it makes sense that they're not going after the, potential charges that they could have had centered around her getting absolutely shit-faced alongside him and them sleeping together based on when this is being filed that would have taken place 2 years ago. So I can't imagine that there would have been a whole lot to go off of, but it's interesting that they include this information as well, and it kind of makes sense now why she wants a trial by jury. I think this additional context would aid her a bit more if she was in a situation where she had a jury viewing the case. To hear this information about Clav's mom essentially allowing them to get shit-faced and then just including all those extra details, I think it helps better frame the points that she's making and the things that she's actually, going after him directly for, with including that prior story and information. Lastly, there is a fourth count in regard to unauthorized publication of name and likeness, just saying he didn't actually have proper consent to use her name and likeness for commercial purposes. But that is everything we have so far. If there was anything new to share with you guys, I will make sure to keep you guys updated, but that's all for now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Adios. Peace. Bye.